This is your official sector trends. At the start of the year, each taxpayer in Kenya is required by law to file their tax returns. For salaried employees, employers are required to issue their employees with a P9 form to help them file their tax returns. But unfortunately, some of us wait until the last reminder to file our tax returns by 30th of June, which raises the question, why is it important to file your annual tax returns on time? To explain this and other issues pertaining to filing of tax returns, we're joined by Wanja Wang'ondu, who is the Assistant Manager at Kenya Revenue Authority Taxpayer Services. Wanja, good morning.
Good morning.
Happy to see you. It's a good 2021. It's the first time we're speaking, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
I don't know whether it's too late to say Happy New Year or...
Happy New Year too.
To you too. All right, let's start by understanding why it is important to file annual tax returns for both KRA and taxpayers, and who exactly is required to file a tax return before June 30th.
Thank you. Our dear taxpayers, the persons who are required to file the annual returns on or before the 30th of June are all individual persons. Number two, we have the partnerships and all limited companies whose accounting year ends on 31st December. So again, I repeat, all persons, all individual persons. Number two, the partnerships. And number three, all limited companies whose accounting year ends on 31st December. Now, let me note one thing. The filing of the returns is a requirement because you and I need to come and declare to the taxman and say, these were my incomes for the year 2020. Also, you may be doing a declaration to say, I did not have any taxable income in the year 2020. So the declaration is basically a statement of your income or your taxable incomes for the year 2020.
Pretty much. All right. Now, Wanja,
yes,
we do know exactly that we have been fighting with the coronavirus pandemic all the way from last year up to where we are right now. If you look at the returns that you've been receiving up to now, do we expect to see a fall in performance, especially when it comes to this Section 4 payee?
Okay. Thank you. Now, when we talk about returns filing, it is a time that we set in to do a declaration of all our incomes.
Yes.
So we are saying then, if you had employment income, you are required to do that declaration. If you had business income, it's basically a declaration of all your incomes. And in addition, we are saying, if you did not have that income as well, make the declaration and state the facts. So you realize that who is this person who ought to declare is a person who has income tax obligation. Whether you have the income tax individual, income tax partnership, or income tax company, these are the persons who are required to declare. Only that for the companies we are talking about, the ones whose accounting year ends on that first December.
Yes.
So now we come to your question and relate it to the pandemic. So look at it this way. The pandemic may have affected our incomes. And even if whether the pandemic affected our income or not, the declaration is giving a window of that one, who it affected or whom it did not affect. So it's all of us now, whether we were affected or whether we were not affected, because the declaration is basically saying, these were my incomes for the year. All, I did not have any income that's taxable for that year.
Yes.
So you get, so
Somebody is going to ask you again, Wanja, since we're
yes.
also within the coronavirus pandemic, are there exemptions of the people cannot file within this period? What are these unique, is there any other, and I'm trying to make it as clear as possible so that we don't confuse anybody who's looking to find that as a win or not to file. What occurrence can make somebody ask for an extension for filing of their returns?
Okay, so you realize one thing. We have been given a whole 6 months
Yes.
to file the annual returns.
Yes.
Meaning we have from January to 30th June to do this declaration. And so even before we talk about would there be any exemption, the filing of the returns, you realize it's a process that will take you a maximum of 5 minutes. And so what I urge my fellow Kenyans, all persons who are required to do this declaration, let's not even think about an exemption or anything like that. Let's take up this time and do the declarations.
Yes.
And if we have any difficulties, then I will give a phone number or an email that we can contact. And in addition, on our website, we have put a step-by-step guide of filing the income tax returns so that once you just get to our website, you check on that step-by-step guide. It is leading you from one step to the other, from the step of logging in with the PIN and password to the point of inputting the data that's required to be input in the system to the point of submitting. So with that, let's not even talk about exemption, anything to do with exemption. Let's talk about here. We have the time. Today is April 15th. Imagine we have a whole May, June, and the 15 days for April. So let's do the filing.
Is it possible to talk about somebody will give you evidence that they have been in isolation because of the coronavirus pandemic and they were not really able to do the tax filings within a window? Last year is when we started talking about, well, there could be people that are within isolation, within a window for filing returns. Is it possible that could be an exemption, Wanja?
Okay. Now, all I would like to tell my fellow Kenyans is this.
Yes.
We are in a technology period. The filing of the returns is online. Even when you are isolated, you can still access a phone. By the way, if you sent us, if you scanned us, your P9 or your account, we would even proceed with helping you in case the place you alert, you cannot access internet completely. So all we are saying is, if you can access internet from whichever corner that you are in, proceed and do the filing. But if you happen to have any difficulty, then we will offer other avenues for you, because there are quite very many avenues that are available. As it is right now, in some offices, we are actually picking the manual forms. The only thing that we are doing for the people who are not, for the people who are not able to file completely, and they ask us to assist them, they bring in their P9 forms. We are sanitizing. We are basically observing the Ministry of Health guidelines in full, and we are helping from that angle. So for this one who is in isolation, I believe they have a phone wherever they are. Call us on the number 0711 099 999. I repeat the number again, 0711 099 999. And Elijah, you can have this number and give to anybody who feels that they are stuck. You can also contact us on our email, callcenter@kra.go.ke, because look at it this way, the COVID has hit widely now last month. So the question that the taxman would even ask, you ought to have filed in January, in February as well. So we have ample time to do this filing. So let's proceed and file.
Pretty much. All right, another question that you're going to get, Wanja, most of the time is, what is the filing culture for Kenyans? Are we waiting up to the last minute. Is there any statistics that we might take home this morning in terms of exactly how Kenyans are filing their returns this year?
Okay. Thank you, Elijah. I like the way Kenyans have taken up the return filing. Over the years, we have noted a 25% increase every year on the numbers that have been filing. But I also wish to note that we have also noted with great concern of the big numbers who come up the last days. So that has been noted, and for sure, we have been having quite a big number. I remember, like last year, the last day, we have about 100,000. No, about 200,000 returns were filed on 30th of June. So, and you'll notice, like some earlier days, you'd even be receiving about 40,000.
Yes.
So for sure, during the last day, we have noted an influx on the number of the returns that are filed. But you notice, once there's a due date, there will be a penalty or a fine on you if you don't file by the due date.
Yes.
So, but the point is, let's file now, because all help that we need is available on us.
Pretty much. But the other issues that I really want to handle, Wanja, this morning, but let's understand that. If I don't get to file my returns on the due date, can we get to understand the fine? What am I open to in terms of my fines?
Okay. Thank you, Elijah. Now, the first thing, even before I talk about the fines, there are those people who say that I am in employment and my employer already filed the pay-as-you-earn returns.
Yes.
Why do you require me to file again? So I wish to note one thing, that when the employer is filing the pay-as-you-earn returns, the employer only declares the income that they are paying you. The employer do not understand about our side hustles. The employer does not understand our business incomes, our farming incomes, and all those other incomes that we would be having. And that's why the declaration of the income tax returns comes in to give us, to enable us do the proper declaration of all our incomes. So now we get to what are the given penalties for late filing of the income tax returns. So number one, for individuals, it is 5% of the tax due, or Kenya shillings 2,000, which is higher. And remember, the filing of the annual returns is done once. So even the penalty for individuals is the 2,000 or Kenya shilling, or 5% of the tax due, whichever is higher.
Yes.
And then for the partnerships and all the other non-individuals, the penalty is 20,000 Kenya shillings or 5% of the tax due, whichever is higher. So that is the penalty for late filing of the returns.
Pretty much. So if majority of Kenyans are filing their tax returns a bit late, is the website for KRA able to handle last minute traffic, Wanja?
Yes. I wish to report that over the years, what we have been doing is working on our servers to ensure that even when we have big numbers, we are still able to facilitate them through our online systems. And I wish to report one thing. For the last 2-3 years, we have not had any difficulties, even on the last day when we have had big numbers. So even this year, we are set. Our servers are good, our systems are good, and we have put measures in place to ensure that even if the last day very many people came, they will still be sorted with ease. We will not have any difficulty. I wish to give this assurance to the Kenyans. There will be no difficulty, whatever time that they'll come up for filing. But let's file now. I still retaliate on that. Let's do the filing now.
Like how the message is, let's file now. So another question that you're going to run into, Wanja, is that there are some young Kenyans now who actually have pins, and they actually got them for purposes of sort of getting other amenities within the economy, like higher education loans. Are they also supposed to file returns when they have no income?
Now, notice this. In our country, there are some transactions that are PIN is a requirement.
Yes.
Like the installing of electricity, installing of water, as well as getting the help loans, even opening a bank account, a PIN number would be required for that as well. So now, notice this. If you're opening a bank account, then that means there's an income. Okay, now let's look at this other scenario whereby you got it because of the help loan.
Yes.
I wish to state we have very many students who earn an income. And for those ones who are not earning, then the message is what I had said earlier. Do the declaration and state that you do not have that income.
Yes.
The good thing with the declaration that we are putting, even a zero or a nil return is recognized in our law as a return. So make your declaration as it is. I know maybe in future we will have, amend our law and all that and ensure that we can exempt some persons. But as it is right now, as long as you have the income tax obligation, there is no exemption. So we are required to do the declaration.
Pretty much. All right, there's some data that I want us to look at this morning, even if you could actually just go to revenue composition in terms of exactly how much the various parts really make in terms of that revenue. And you can actually say that when you look at what has been really bigger in that, then you'll find that payee is exactly one of those bigger contributors as well. So when talking about that income tax as well, it's exactly one of the biggest as well. So Wanja, we do know that the government did introduce some tax measures to cushion the economy from the effects of the coronavirus pandemic. But we're getting positive headlines from KRA this year in terms of exactly how you've even gone and surpassed some of your targets they say in terms of tax collections. But generally, Wanja, how much do we expect some of these incentives to affect collections for KRA this year?
Okay. Wow. Let me note one thing. The tax incentives that were introduced were basically a way of cautioning our public.
Yes.
Because for sure, COVID hit, and it hit in an unexpected way.
Yes.
But amazingly, there are some sectors that did extremely very well, despite the COVID hitting. There's some sectors of the economy that we noted there was increase in their taxable incomes. And so now that's why you will notice that out of our tax collected, there are those sectors, yes, that were affected. I know the service sectors were greatly affected, like the hotel industries, the transport, they were affected partly. But you realize there were some sectors that even came up. There are new entrepreneurs that we knew about last year that we had not known about in the prior years. So a market has a balance. So there are those ones who are hard hit, and there are those ones who gain most. So that's why you notice that when we come to the collections, our collections, yes, may be affected. By the way, for something like pay as you earn, we went to the extent of the relief that was introduced. That is for the people who are below 24,000, and even the new tax bill made us miss about 4 billion from pay as you earn almost every month. So you can see that's quite a huge amount. But on the other hand, we noted from imports and even from other sectors, there was a compensation for that given loss. So our joy is that there was the cautioning to the public, and we have received very positive comments from the public. The public are very happy that even up to now, the relief of the people earning up to 24,000 are not paying any pay as you earn. The public are very happy with that. And I think that's a good move that the government is happy about.
So as we conclude this conversation this morning, since we are within that window of filing of these tax returns, let's address this area. We do know that there's some special exemptions within the economy. Number one, persons with disabilities. How do they go about filing their returns and understanding exactly what their exemption is when it comes to filing the tax returns?
Thank you, Elijah. So now, let me talk about the law has a number of persons who are exempted from paying taxes.
Yes.
So, I repeat, the exemption is on the payment of taxes. And some of these exemptions, by the way, even have the numbers are very clear. Like for the persons living with disability, their income, the first 150,000 every month, is exempted from tax. But when we go to the section that talks about the filing of the returns, nobody is exempted from filing the returns. So even those entities that are exempted under the first schedule of the Income Tax Act from payment of the taxes, as well as the persons living with disability,
yes,
I wish to state that the exemption is on paying of taxes, but the exemption is not on filing. So let us all file. Note that. I hope that has clarified. The exemption is on paying of the taxes, but not on the filing of the returns.
Not on the filing of the return. So even if you are exempt
Yes.
from paying that tax, you still have to go forward and then file those returns. Fantastic.
You got it.
All right.
You are
Now,
required to file. Yes.
yeah, so let's clear this conversation. Since we are also now talking about the importance of filing these returns earlier, there's a question, and this I got it directly from one of our viewers, and I'm just going to read it exactly the way it is. Once they saw your poster, they said, can you please ask her why it gets a bit complicated for me to get a tax refund, as it's easier for me to file my tax return?
Noted. So now the person is want to find out why it's hard for them to get the tax refunds.
That's it. Yes.
Easy for them to file.
Yes.
Okay. Now allow me note two things. When we file our tax returns and we realize that we are in credit possession, it's not a direct assurance that we have a tax refund, because it would be that some computations were not done properly,
yes,
or maybe the person input the data. You see, we input the data in the iTax system. So there's some people that we come to realize that they input long figures. And so once you query the person, you realize, no, this person does not have any tax refund. And then number two, once you file and you realize that you're in tax, in a refund possession or in a credit possession, and you want the refund, then you make the next step of applying for the tax refund. So by being on credit possession, there's no guarantee that there's a refund payable. So make the next step and apply for the tax refund. And then number three, if you have a tax refund, there is a process. We process these tax refunds because we want to again be sure that this tax refund is a true tax refund that is payable.
Yes.
And then after we finish the processing, the last thing is we pay. And on making the payment, it is as per the money that we have been given from the Treasury for payment of refunds. I wish to let the Kenyans know, in the year 2018-2019, we made refunds of 14 billion. Last year, we made refunds of 25 billion. So Elijah, you can see that's a clear indication that the taxman is actually refunding. So we will refund you if your refund is actually a valid refund. Thank you.
Pretty much. Wanja Wang'ondu, thank you very much for joining us this morning for this conversation. And we hope that indeed, yes, you've heed that call for you to refund your taxes a bit earlier. Just before we clear, this is a question again, Wanja, that I just quickly on that as well. Just 1 minute, if you may. How are you helping the elderly? And when do elders stop contributing to tax? That's a direct question again from one of our viewers.
Can you repeat that question? How are we helping them?
The elderly when it comes to this tax returns, and when do elders stop contributing to tax?
Okay, so for the elderly, yes, I know majority have self-isolated themselves. I want to give you our email address. That's callcenter@kra.go.ke. You may like to ask if you get to our website and have any difficulties on following up the step-by-step guide provided on the filing. You may also call us on the number that I've given, 0711 099 999, and we will guide you on the number or on how we will be able to proceed with your filing. But there is a way out for that. Yes.
Pretty much. Wanja, thank you very much for joining us this morning for this conversation.
Thank you.
On that note, we take a short break. Once we come back, your economic review.